You hate ads? I hate ads. You know what I like? Patreon.com/inkdependence keeps this channel ad-free. Hello folks, welcome to Inkdependence. I'm Mike, and today we're looking at spooky themed inks, and these are ones that I went through on Twitch with a whole bunch of folks. We have fun over there on Twitch on Tuesdays and Thursdays from about noon to 2 Eastern time. We're looking at inks, we're playing with pens, all that kind of jazz, so come join us. Today we're looking at spooky inks that I have pulled out of my Inkodex, and you know, I'm like, oh, these are kind of spooky, so let's look at some spooky inks, eh? All right, here we go. All right, there's gonna be a bunch of them, so hold tight. First up, Diamine Occult Pens Pumpkin Shimmer. This is a very nice pumpkin-y orange ink. Good amount of shimmer there. Good stuff. It's pumpkins. That's spooky season stuff. Diamine Solstice. Solstice is not just a Christmas ink from Inkvent. Solstice also happens nowish. We've also got Wearing Ghouls Half Moon with Dimmed Light. Just kind of a spooky vibe on this one, like a spooky night with like green shimmery stuff going on in the sky there, perhaps. We have Wearing Ghoul and Endless Pens, Edgar Allan Poe, The Black Cat. This is brand new from Endless Pens, so check that out over there. Really nice, super dark purple, actually, but with a very nice shimmer to it. Next up, another Wearing Ghoul went with Hamlet, because who's holding a skull but Hamlet himself? So there you go. Alas, poor Yorick. That's a nice ink. Next up, Wearing Ghoul Dracula. I have reviewed this one very recently. Go check this out on my channel, but it is a cheery sort of red ink with a beautiful blue shimmer in there. Maybe some real oxygenated blood. I will tell you, this definitely looks like blood when you get it in the knuckle of your finger there. It looks like, oh no, did I cut myself? Nope, just some Dracula. All right, next up, Robert Oster and Atlas Pens Vampire Pigeon. This is another really nice ink for this spooky season. Another take on this red sort of situation, red and shimmer, but this time they went with dual tone shimmer, which is real fun. You can't really see all the tones in it on this this camera here, but we've got green and purple shimmer going on in that ink. Fun to write with. And that's going to do it for our shimmery inks. So let me just go ahead and clear these up. Here's a fun green ink for you. This one is not particularly spooky, except that it's called Mangalar, which sounds a little spooky to me. I really like this green ink. It also reminds me of mangroves. It's supposed to be a mangrove sort of ink, I believe. And they have those big knees that stick up out of the swamp. So a little bit spooky. We've also got here one called Dark Energy. This one is from Colorverse. It's one you don't see all that often, but it's a really interesting sort of, I don't know, maroonish kind of color with like green sheen, but it's dark energy. Like, yeah, it's spooky. All right. We've got, next up, this is a really interesting one. This is Pannonia's Strigoi. These kind of came out of my weird category here with dark energy. Strigoi is a black ink, or maybe it's just a super dark blue, but so dark it doesn't matter. It's basically black. And it also has, as you can see through the center here, a red nano pigment. This one is pretty darn cool. I'm interested to see if they have anything for this year. I haven't heard tell, but maybe Strigoi from Pannonia. Then next up, another weirdo Pannonia one called Draculaeus from a couple years ago, and I love it so much I bought an extra bottle because it's just so good. This is a red ink that dries to, well, this kind of dried blood color you get here, and then to make it extra spooky, there is a black nano pigment in here, and this black one works super well. It shows up in all your writing with this ink. It's just it's a great ink. I really like Draculaea. Then this one, Ferris Wheel Press Cream of Earl. This one gets thrown in here because it makes me laugh. I call it Ghost of Earl or Cream of Ghost because there's barely any ink in this ink. It's a ghosty ink, this one. Ooh. Next up, this one's just called Diamine Ghost. And I mean, it's ghost. It's got ghost on it. Ghost is in the name. It's spooky. Next up, Papier Plume Café Diabolique. This is a fascinating ink that is named after a really interesting coffee drink in New Orleans. Go check yourself out some of that flaming Café Diabolique if you ever get down to New Orleans. And say hi to the folks at Papier Plume for me. I don't think you can get this one anymore, but if you catch a sale on this, I'd say go for it. It's real cool. Next up, Andorilium Shoebill Stork Gray. I will get a picture from the internet and put it over here as to why Shoebill Stork Gray fits in here, but they've got the Death Stare, and that's spooky. Next up, Papier Plume Rougarou from Halloween 2022. This is another banger from Papier Plume last year, and Rougarou is basically like a swamp werewolf. That's spooky. All right, next up, we're going for some black inks here. This is the new platinum ink right here, which is pronounced Chokuro, which is just a super black. That's just what it means, super black. Look how black that ink is, super dark and black. Very spooky season, I suppose. We've got Monteverde Raven Noir. Ravens, classically spooky. We have some super sheeners up in here. Diamine Bloody Absinthe, which is bloody and absinthe. You got that that red tint over that dark green ink there. Really cool ink, that one. Diamine Hell's Bells. It's got hell in the name. It's for sure spooky. This is a really cool super sheener. Another one I got from a friend of the channel, Barb, who sent this awesome blue with a ton of red sheen out. I've got here a Diamine. Diamine is just killing it on these spooky season things. This is Seize the Night. Audrey wrote Seize the Day on this one when she first wrote it out, and I get it, because Seize the Day is what you hear more often, but this is Seize the Night, as you do in spooky season. Next up, another Diamine. Can you believe it? Skull and Roses. Obviously, that had to be in here, right? This is a really well-behaved super sheener from Diamine. This is maybe my favorite of the super sheening like blues that turn super red because it just flows so well. I've never had problems with this one, and sometimes these super sheeners can be a little bit of a pain in the butt to use because they'll stop up or whatever, and you're just like, haunt your pen with hard starts, but not Skull and Roses. Next one. This is from Krishna, and it's called Empty. That's creepy if you ask me. It's just emptiness, which appears to be a super dark brown with like a black sheen of some kind. I have actually not had a chance to use this one, but every time I see it, I'm like, I should use this Krishna Empty. It's kind of wild. All right, this one is creepy because of how it ended up. This is an ink that would never dry that was on the back here. It's not this ink that we're about to show you. This one is called Krishna Moonview, and this is just fortuitous, right? This just looks like the moon on a super dark night with some clouds and stuff going on. How crazy does that look? It's like the card knew. In reality, what happened is I had my thumb there at some point. I just got some nice thumb oils on there, and so when you swatch the ink over it, it was repelled. But it does look like the moon through the clouds on a real dark night. That's kind of perfect. All right, next up. Pannonia, I'm not even going to try to say that one. It's called Hellfire. This is a limited production ink that is not around anymore, but it is darn cool looking. Look at that, it's like slate blue in there with some kind of sheen going on. I have a very small sample of this that I got from a good friend, and yeah, really cool. I mean, it's very small because that's all I have left. It's kind of cool. Hellfire. Next up, coming out of the depths to spook you is the Andurilium Colossal Squid Dark. How cool is that? It's just dark colossal. It's big. It's a squid. It's creepy. Next up, Wearingghoul Wicked Witch. This is obviously got to go in here. It's a wicked witch, not a good witch. This is a wicked one, a blue with a bunch of sheen, as you can see there in the corners and such. What has appeared? Why, it's a dark forest from Navalur, or Narwhal. This is from their Explorer ink set. This is the first set of inks they did, and this is a really nice one. I used this in a pen for quite a long time, longer than any of the other Navalur inks, the Dark Forest. All right, now let's get into some like real bright and cheery ones here. Firstly, we've got Diamine Pumpkin. You gotta have pumpkins. This is classic spooky season stuff. This is a great orange ink, one of my very favorites. It's just a great ink. You've also got Diamine Orange, which is definitely not as creepy. It's a little bit lighter and such. This one I wouldn't say it's creepy or spooky until you carve it into a jack-o'-lantern. But Diamine Pumpkin, don't miss it. Next up, you'll find that Diamine Pumpkin in the Ferris Wheel Press Pumpkin Patch. I have another one of these. I kept two of these samples actually, or two of these sample cards because look how different they look. Now that's spooky. Why is one of them just really dark? Did they change the ink? Is it just kind of just an artifact of how I swatched it? We'll never know. It's spooky. Pumpkin Patch. Next up, What else are you going to find in that pumpkin patch? Well, you're going to find Van Diemen's Harvest Golden Nugget Pumpkin. Here's a spooky thing about this one. It came in a little jar from Van Diemen's, and somehow Golden Nugget Pumpkin almost entirely escaped its jar. Sitting upright, somehow the ink came out of the jar into the box and like soaked into the box and did not get anything else inky. Just soaked the box. Spooky. Next up, the Deep Darkness Cult Pins Deep Dark Purple. This is great. You've got a deep dark purple. You've got a cult. It's kind of all you need. Thanks, Eleanor, for giving me this ink sample. Next up, another papier plume. They really kind of kill it on these Halloween inks. Here is Bloody Pumpkin, which I could not find a swatch of, and so I had to go find all my inks and find this one because I knew I had it. Look at that color. That is a really interesting bloody red pumpkin color. Kind of a little ketchup-y, but that's not spooky, so Bloody Pumpkin. Next up, Andorilium's Vampire Squid Red. Vampire Squid's perfectly nice looking squid, has a cute little ear situation going on. Google up a vampire squid. It's cute and you know, looks real nice on some paper. So, you know, check out the vampire squid from Andorilium. Next up, this is a Pannonia called Odogivorosh, which is Devil Red. A really nice, bright, pure red. Works really well on all the papers and all the pens I have put it in. In fact, this has lived in a pen for quite a while, probably a couple of years. It's been living in this medium sig nib where I really like it. It's a great red. I need to get a bottle of this one of these days. Plus, it's fun to say Odogivorosh. All right, can't leave out Robert Oster's Blood Moon. Got this from my friend Barb, who sent this out. This is a fun sample to have. Blood Moon. Next up, gotta have something a little bloody in there. I skipped Ox Blood, but I went for Diamine Rider's Blood because, I mean, Riders are supposed to use ink, not just blood, but this bloody red kind of wine-colored ink definitely belongs in our spooky set here. Next up, another papier plume, The Count. This one actually is available right now. This is from Halloween 2023 right now. This is from a story of a guy who might have been a vampire, might have just been a real creeper, but is alleged to have wine bottles full of blood in his mansion. The Count. Next up, Tears of a Clown. The folks on Twitch insisted that I add this to the set because clowns, they say, are straight up creeps. Here's the thing. I don't think clowns are that creepy unless you're living in a sewer handing out balloons and being a demon. That's a spoiler for Stephen King's It. Go watch that movie. Next up, we're getting toward the very end. This is IWI Colors of Nature Autumnal Equinox. We had an equinox. We had a thing earlier on in here. Solstice. This is the Autumnal Equinox. Got this ink from Van Ness Pens. IWI has some really interesting inks, and I love the names. And lastly, maybe not creepiest, but definitely a creepy ink, Papier Plumes 11. This one has a creepy bottle. It's got a creepy vibe. It's calling up the underground, calling up the upside down. You may remember the reference for this one from Stranger Things. So there you go. That's been a whole bunch of creepy season inks that you might be wanting to use. If you're writing out a Halloween card, look, some people send those. Or if you're just wanting to use some season appropriate inks, check out these creepy inks from around my collection. Let me know down below in the comments which inks you think belong in this set that I missed, or which ones are your favorite. What are you using right now? And I'll see you in another video. Until later on.